Good morning. We're going to give it a few minutes and then we will go ahead and get started. I see a bunch of people jumping on, and give us about 2 past and we will do some intros and get this webinar going. Good morning, everybody. We'll give it one more minute. We still have some people jumping on, and then we will get started. All right, guys, it is 2 past 10, so Eastern or Central Time. So we'll go ahead and get started with our presentation this morning. First off, thanks for joining. We're excited to have everybody aboard to learn a little bit about our nitrogen generators and what we can do for you. First off, I want to introduce myself. I'm Heather Mitchell. I'm the Senior Product Manager for GD and for Gardner Denver. I've been with Gardner Denver for 5 years, a little over 5 years now in the industry, about 11. My partner in crime, Pat Kramer, is on, and he is going to be leading our training this morning. I will be taking Q&A. Hopefully you can see. Is everyone muted? Okay. Hopefully you can see the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. If you have any questions, please put them in there. We will be answering them throughout the training session today. So hopefully you can see that down there. It should be your second button from participants or just Q&A. Hopefully you can see that. So put questions in there and then we will go ahead and get started. Again, Pat Kramer, I'm going to go ahead and introduce him. He has been in the industry for 20 plus years and has quite a bit of knowledge with compressors and downstream equipment. He's going to kick this off, and we also have our expert with us too as well, Torsten, and Pat will tell us a little bit about him as well. So Pat, go ahead, take it over.
Thank you, Heather. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Again, thanks for the time. We have plenty of time to go through the presentation. As Heather said, Q&A and some time at the end. Without further ado, we'll get started. As long as the clicker is doing what it should. Technical difficulties, apologize. So the picture you have in front of us is Torsten Holt. A little bit of generational background on Gardner Denver. Torsten, who is in our panel, has 40 plus years of gas separation experience. As you can see, he has been a process engineer for commissioning systems, technical manager for Carbotech, a leading vendor within the industry for creating PSA and membrane design. He is the CEO and founder of Holtec Gas Systems, based right here in the Midwest, one of the leading designers of N2 systems, as you can see. And of note, Holtec was acquired by Gardner Denver in 2022, after 25 plus years of experience building the best in class of N2 products. So what you're going to see is a plethora of products that we have a lot of experience in, maybe a little newer to the Gardner Denver brand, but definitely experience in the marketplace. Now let's show a little video.
When nitrogen is critical to your operations, you can't afford to worry about scheduling deliveries through an unstable supply chain or managing fluctuating costs. Traditional delivery can be unreliable and less flexible than your processes require. Fortunately, Gardner Denver has a full line of on-site nitrogen generation solutions that give you exactly what you need exactly when you need it. You can lower your operating cost and eliminate waste while still preventing combustion, corrosion, and product spoilage. Whereas 10 to 20% of bulk nitrogen is typically wasted during extraction from cylinders, on-site generation prevents this waste, reducing usage and cost. You can free up valuable floor space and eliminate safety issues related to bulk storage. And on-site generation uses the freely available nitrogen that exists in the air. So your only expense is the cost of operating the system. No matter your requirements, Gardner Denver has a solution to meet your precise demand. With purities ranging from 95% to 99.999%, you can select pressure swing absorption (PSA) technology, which drives down operating costs and delivers purities above 99.5%. Or you can select membrane technology for lower initial costs. Like all products from Gardner Denver, you can expect the highest quality and reliability. Our generators come pre-assembled and tested at the factory, and are covered by standard extended warranty to keep you protected for 24 to 30 months. Declare your independence from purchased bulk nitrogen with reliable on-site generation for applications such as blanketing, laser cutting, packaging, and more. Contact Gardner Denver today to see how we can help you identify the right solution for your needs.
Well, after we saw that nice little video, let's talk about briefly what our agenda is going to be today. Now, we will touch some of these subjects, obviously through glossary of terms. And the audience I'm speaking to, whether you're an end user investigating nitrogen for the first time, or a seasoned plant owner, or somebody within the industry, we're going to try to touch all the bases to give you a little idea of what nitrogen can do for you. So some of this may be reviewed to some and new to others. We're going to talk about some of the nitrogen applications, basic concepts, how a nitrogen system works, application tools that Gardner Denver has at the ready to assist you to size and select correctly. Why would you want to look at nitrogen, energy comparisons, and obviously how to learn more about our products. Without further ado, let's take off. First of all, some glossary of terms. PSA for pressure swing absorption, we saw that. Akin to a large desk and dryer. Membrane technology. When you're looking and talking in the industry, if you're looking to find out, IG is your industrial gas company. So maybe you're getting bulk nitrogen delivered that way through your IG supplier. N2 obviously means nitrogen. When you start to look at capacities, you're going to hear SCFH or SCFM, which you're going to look into when you're sizing equipment, or if you're going to your local Gardner Denver distributor to have a system sized, they're going to need to know some of that criteria. Okay, sale of gas, sale of equipment. We're not going to spend a lot of time here. So let's talk a little bit about the markets. Again, some of you on the webinar may already be in the laser cutting business, or a food and beverage manufacturer, or you're in petrochemical and paint. These are some of the top industries that we see obviously looking to generate their own nitrogen. And hopefully you're going to look into that more today with us. Other industries like the food and raw materials, tobacco and grain storage. We all know when we open up a bag of chips or open up a peanut can or maybe a bottle of beer, what we don't know is that there's nitrogen stored on top of that to preserve its freshness, purity, and shelf life. And that's why some of you are probably on this webinar today. These are some of the common industries that we see for nitrogen use and obviously for nitrogen generation. Now, nitrogen, the what and the why. Well, what makes up the air we breathe? I mean, the air that we see right now is 78% nitrogen, 21% oxygen, with a small amount of noble gases left over. And nitrogen, as I said, is an excellent inert gas with a low O2 content. It's used to help in preventing combustion and explosion. It helps to save materials. Obviously, we've talked about spoilage of foods and raw materials. And what you see on the bottom, and again, for those who may not know that you generate nitrogen, or you're looking to generate nitrogen in your plant, or you actually use it, the traditional sources of supply of nitrogen are on the bottom. Maybe in your plant, you see a cylinder gas bottle, or a mini bulk dewar, or you'll see large bulk nitrogen tanks out the back. That's a dead giveaway that you are a nitrogen consumer. And now it's time to look at generating your own, okay? So what are the basic concepts of a nitrogen generator? Well, air is 70% nitrogen, so it's freely available. So let's use it. As you can see through the absorption process, smaller O2 molecules will be captured by the CMS media. Again, akin to desiccant in a desiccant dryer. So when you're looking at sizing a system, you may ask yourself, well, how much media is used, or how is a PSA system sized? Well, if you have a higher purity, the bigger the PSA, right? If you have a higher flow rate needed, the larger the PSA. So when you start to look at that, that is going to determine how your systems grow from small to large. And obviously, an important factor that you work with on your local Gardner Denver distributor is what's the ambient temperature? Just like any air treatment products, the higher the ambient temperature, the larger the PSA system. So when you size and select, make sure you're realistic about your sizing goals. Now, in looking at our XGN2 model specifically, our enhanced PSA technology, the product offering that your local distributor can show you, it is product from 1 to 2353 SCFM in a single unit. If you have larger flow rates, your local distributor can help you put in units in parallel, right? Some of the nice features are we have a highest quality of CMS available, which translates into lower energy costs, giving the designs that Dorston worked on and we brought over to the Gardner Denver channel have one of the lowest air to N2 ratios, which means higher efficiency, smaller upstream equipment, and then custom options such as PLC upgrades. Maybe you want it NEMA 4 or in your classified area. We can do explosion proof as well. Taking a little further look at some of these standard offerings, when we take a look at purity rates, generally PSAs are used in the 95 to 99.995 if needed range. Large flow rates, great temperature variance. And again, an ideal temperature range for any piece of equipment is always that 70 degree, which nobody really sees, but just know that's our best operating point. And obviously high ambient temperatures up to 110. Standard options on the product, caps option, different flow meters, CRN if you're going into Canadian regions, and obviously other options are available. And what you see in our product line will be an LS and an HS, depending on size ranges, okay? And remember, based on O2 removal, noble gases such as argon will always remain in a nitrogen generation system. So if you are an argon-free user, talk to your local distributor and they can assist there as well. Moving forward, there's, again, the light industrial series, or we call the LS. These are usually smaller generators up to 153 CFM. Smaller plug-and-play units can fit right through the standard manway door, so it's easier as an after effect install if it's not a greenfield site to roll one right in the doorway. Most often found in food and beverage applications, laser cutting, and pharma. When you go above 150 SCFM of nitrogen needed at site, then we go into PSA, or pressure swing absorption. Nitrogen purities can go all the way up to 99.39 or 99.9995 if needed. These are larger systems. Obviously, you see that they're skid mounted, and they're ideal for applications, again, using bulk N2, larger flows, larger blanketing applications, and again, are most common in food and beverage, laser cutting, pharma, and petrochemical, et cetera. Now, if we look at the PSA system, be it a LS or HS, some of the key features are, again, you can have options of NEMA 4 or NEMA 4X. Pressure dew point meters, obviously you want to read your pressure dew point of the air going outside of the generator. Flow meters, which are either standard or optional, depending on the size, because you obviously want to monitor what flow you're seeing. And maybe you want to send that back to a whole house system or monitor that at a control room. Dry contacts for monitoring. Alarms for high oxygen. Obviously, if something's going wrong, you want to monitor the system and see if there's a higher oxygen content, meaning we may have a system problem generating nitrogen. And obviously, a caps option, right? If your demand is a little bit intermittent, depending on the upstream equipment you're needing to use, whether it's a fixed speed machine, you may want to add a caps option, which helps to balance some of the load in those times of low load, which helps to not cycle your upstream compressor too frequently. Now, if there's a lot going on this screen, I'm just going to touch on some of the telemetry that can be monitored. And you see with a PLC option from Allen Bradley, there's a lot to be monitored. There's a menu screen. You can do trending and graphing. You'll know when the nitrogen generator is stopped or started. Obviously, you want to verify your purity rate in parts per million or percentage and know your N2 pressure. And obviously, a nice big red flashing light if there's maintenance required, right? And that appears when filters or upstream equipment need to be changed. Nitrogen generator is only as good as the preventative maintenance that's going to be done upstream. A lot of data going on here to monitor the telemetry of your PSA system. Now let's talk a little bit in park here for a minute. This is going to be some live animation of the actual generation process. And I'll slow down a little bit here and you'll see in the production process, compressed air is going in at the bottom. It's going into one of the two towers, going across your media. Oxygen flows out of the air, nitrogen flows out the tower, N2 exits at the top for continuous 24/7 use. No longer do you have to worry about a delivery truck not coming on time, right? Now we're going to regen the other part of the tower, right? And simultaneously, one tower is being depressurized. We're capturing O2 out of the media. O2 exits out the generator through a muffler into the atmosphere or into your room. A small portion of N2 is used to help that purge process, but that portion is taken into account when your system is sized. Then your pressure is equalized. The two towers are then open to each other and then stored. Pressurized nitrogen is equalized between both. Towers then switch and we lather, rinse, repeat, continuing this process 24/7, giving you a reliable stream of nitrogen to be used at the plant. Now let's talk a little bit about what should be required upstream of the system. So if you're on this webinar and you're thinking to yourself, well, what do I need upstream of a Gardner Denver generator? Well, it'll be perfect. We have a complete portfolio of upstream equipment. So the first thing you need is an air compressor, be it oil flooded or oil free. You then want to filter out that air. You want to dry it, filter it again, go into an activated carbon tower. Now here's a note. If you are an oil flooded or oil injected customer, you need an activated carbon tower. If you have an oil free compressed air stream, no need for item 4. We will then filter the air one more time, go into a storage vessel before we go into the nitrogen generator. And then we have an N2 storage tank. And lastly, a particulate filter downstream. Whether you have this system already installed, these are the requirements that you need before a PSA generator. Or if you're looking for the complete upstream system, your local Gardner Denver distributor can help you size and select. Now, a little bit about value. And this is probably why you're looking into generating your own nitrogen today. We provide a very high efficient system. As we stated before, we have one of the lowest N2 to air ratios on the market. Very high dense packing of our CMS material, plus an energy assist variable capacity system to help save air if your demand fluctuates and it isn't 24/7, 100%. Fully reliable system, long life, CMS from Japan, the highest quality. And one of the biggest things you're probably looking at is you're going to have a 24/7 constant N2 flow, a guaranteed supply. 24 to 30 months warranty on our product. And not to be forgotten, the expertise of your local Gardner Denver distributor and your panel members here who will come in contact with your applications. We'll talk a little bit about that. And Thorsten's company has been a strong supporter of a big dedication to R&D with new innovations, continually looking to how to do it better for you and us going forward. Now, let's talk a little bit about maintenance. You're probably wondering, well, what do I really have to do to a PSA generator? Well, on the nitrogen side for a PSA system, being a little bit bigger, right? There are going to be daily checks you have to go through. There's monthly checks. Annually, you have to replace an instrument air filter on the generator itself. You're obviously going to replace your air and nitrogen filters annually, your carbon tower media, and some small mufflers. If you notice, we're not looking to replace the CMS media, which is your biggest dollar item, for 10 plus years. That's because we're committed to the highest quality of CMS on the marketplace. Now, A little bit more about the value proposition and some of the tools your local Gardner Denver distributor can assist you with. First of all, there is an excellent system sizing tool it will use with a built-in ROI calculator to help you see how fast your return on investment is going to be. These tools are going to be available to you through your local distributor. A little bit more about our energy assistant. Obviously, when demand is intermittent, we want to reduce your air consumption, which reduces your energy consumption on the front end, saving you money going forward. A little bit more about reliability. Looking at some of the actual components on our systems. Again, we've talked about the highest quality of CMS. That's the lifeblood of a PSA generator. We absorb more O2 faster than we absorb N2. A smaller diameter particle size, a long life compared to others, 3 to 5 within the industry, high reliability, high quality switching valves, and again, one of the best industries in the marketplace. Smaller compressors, dryers, and filters upstream mean smaller capital acquisition costs, as well as shorter ROI costs and better energy efficiency throughout the year. And again, we manufacture most of the major components on our systems. We're now going to jump to membrane technology. We've stopped with PSA, which are larger flows, and membrane technology systems are a little smaller in size and are also used on lower purity rates. And what you see in front of you are two versions. One, if you want an open panel mount, gauges and dials, and here you'll see filtration built on board. Or if you want it enclosed, we have enclosed options as well. So membrane systems, again, are used for smaller purity rates and smaller flow rates because the membrane technology does not extend that large to be economical, okay? And we'll talk about how your local distributor can help you determine if you're in the middle of a membrane or a PSA selection and what that means to you. A little higher pressures, NEMA 1 protection, again, panel or enclosed versions. These versions are generally with gauges, manual control. Some people will opt for a PLC option. It's really dependent on what you want to do and what you want to monitor back at your plant. A little bit less on the option level, a little bit simpler system to operate. Now, if you look at the touchscreen controller, if you opted for an HMI option, there's not as much data going on or not as much I/O to monitor, but you will monitor the key things like your percent oxygen, your N2 pressure out, whether you're started or stopped. You will have a systems menu, a filter maintenance menu, and your total run time hours. You can still send this data back through BACnet or TCP/IP, however you want to send it back to your whole house system, monitoring your membrane system going forward. Now, we're going to park here a little bit and show a little bit more about how membrane technology works. Think of it as a filter, right? Compressed air goes in. Nitrogen molecules are about 3% larger than an O2 molecule. So what happens is the smaller O2 molecules permeate through the walls of the fiber itself. And they are what is expelled outside the top of the nitrogen membrane. The larger N2 molecules continue to flow. Oh, excuse me. We lost our video there. Larger N2 molecules will continue to flow downstream, giving you a clean, dry, filtered process downstream of your N2 tank. And if you notice, the system sizes get a little smaller here in our example, okay? Membranes, again, are better, and this video is going to stop again, so I apologize. The highest purity rate that you can see in a membrane is 99.5%. On a PSA, we're 99.999 and up to a 0.5 as well. So membrane systems are a little more costly at the higher purity rates because the ratios are not as good, and we'll see that in the next slide. Now, a little less functionality going on here because remember, the nitrogen membrane has onboard filtration already, so that your upstream system is a little bit easier. Air is obviously needed from a compressor, going through a dryer, into your air storage tank, into your nitrogen generator with your 3-stage onboard filtration, And then out to your N2 tank, you should always have a particulate filter downstream. One key note that I want to point out is in our nitrogen generation systems from Gardner, Denver, the dryer that you see in number 3 is always a refrigerated air dryer. We do not require a desking dryer like some of the other vendors on the market, keeping your capital acquisition costs down, as well as keeping your system a little bit more simple to operate. A nice feature of our XGN2, a little bit plugged there for Gardner, Denver. Now, again, the value proposition here is a little bit easier to look at. It's a little smaller system to operate. You can see a much smaller size. Even the largest N2 membrane generator is 77 by 49 by 24 in a panel mount side, enclosure mount. Used for ag applications, liquid sparging, biofuels, fire suppression, standard 3-stage filtration, and again, 24/7 guaranteed N2 supply. That's probably why you're on this webinar today. It functions much like a filter. Again, a 10+ life on your membrane system itself. Manual inlet and outlet valves, and a great standard warranty from Gardner, Denver. Let's talk about maintenance. Maintenance is actually a lot easier than the PSA, which is easier to begin with. Really, annually, you're just replacing the filter elements on the membrane generator itself. Now, you still want to do your routine maintenance annually on all the upstream equipment, your compressor, your dryers, your filters, your carbon tower if needed. But really a low maintenance system. And you can see the membranes and the PSAs are helping you with your return on investment because your annual maintenance costs are extremely low. Now let's talk a little bit about how you get the right system. Getting the right system starts with obviously knowing your operation criteria, but talking to your local Gardner, Denver distributor, they have a nice application worksheet. So they're going to ask you some questions. They're going to ask you, well, what's your purity? What temperatures, what pressures, the things we talked about. Once that's done, what's going to happen is your local Gardner Denver distributor is going to submit that to product management. Heather and myself are going to make a first pass engineering review, most likely myself. Once the application is validated and vetted, I'm going to go back to the local distributor and say, your system sizing is right on. That's your first check. Now a quotation can be issued to you. Once a quotation is done, we're going to ask our local distributor to provide all that documentation back to customer service group, and it's going to go down to Thorsten's group. And they're going to validate the system again to make sure that we've all done our jobs right, providing that last final check. If there's something off in the size of your system, they're going to stop the process. We're not going to start manufacturing. We're going to send that back, usually probably through customer service or myself, and we're going to see if we made an error to make sure that systems are checked and your system is sized correctly. That's the first part. The other tool is obviously a nice selection sizing tool, where your distributor is going to ask you those basic questions. What purity? What pressure? Are you using an oil flooded or oil free system? What type of compression? Again, the goal is to get your system sized correctly. So when looking at these parameters, think of your worst case scenario. Do you have a compressor room, which is temperature controlled? If not, you're going to be at the higher end of the spectrum, meaning your system sizing is going to go larger. So don't be surprised. Same type of tool exists for membrane, right? Low pressure systems, high pressure systems. If you're a low pressure customer, great. If you're a high pressure customer, we have booster applications and booster packages to go along with the standard system that your local distributor can assist with. And again, a system sizing tool to help you show management that payback so that you can easily get out of having liquid nitrogen delivered at a purity rate that's higher than you really want and save some money going forward for you and all of your operating divisions. Now, here's another process that your local distributor is going to go help you with. Maybe you're on the fence in your purity rates. Maybe your purity says you've brought in a piece of equipment and that vendor says you need a purity of 95% or 97%. Well, you're in between two sizes of equipment and two types of equipment. So this chart just shows you real quickly a membrane and a PSA both operating at 75 degrees of a purity of 95. You can see at a 30 SCFM requirement at 100 pounds, the ratios aren't bad. 81 CFM is what's needed for your upstream equipment. With a membrane, it's 56. Okay, the ratio is 2.1 to 1.84. But as you jump up in the highest purity rates or higher purity rates, 99.5 for each, you will see the vast difference and the efficiency that leads you to a PSA selection. 77 SCFM, which is a 20 horsepower compressor, versus 161 CFM needed upstream, which is a 200 CFM compressor or 50 horsepower from most vendors. So this is something that your local distributor will help you choose on what is best for your application, short-term and long-term. Now, again, we're coming not to the end, but close, but we're going to recap again of nitrogen, what and why. Well, it's because it's free in our air. Why not utilize something free and help you save money at the same time? It's an inert gas. It helps you prevent many undesirable consequences: combustion, degradation, spoiling of foods and beverages, and obviously eliminating pests in food and organic products. And again, you may be walking around your own facility, and here are traditional sources of supply. Bulk, large facilities out back where you're seeing trucks drop and top off, where you're seeing up to a 10 and 20% waste that we've talked about in the video. Maybe you're a smaller user and you see a manifold of cylinders in the back that get delivered every other day because you're burning through them. Well, here's where we're going to help you generate your own nitrogen and save some money for your division. Now, this may be, again, repeat or something you've seen in your plant, but this is what bulk storage looks like for most people. Think of a Yeti cooler, right? You have an outer shell, you have a vacuum between the two, and an inner shell. N2 gas is used to pressurize the tank. Your liquid N2 is delivered by your vendor. It's converted to N2 gas. And a key point that I want to talk to you about is you see a note of 99.9995. So when you get a delivery, you're probably getting deliveries of a purity rate much higher than you need. If you're a customer who needs 95% purity, you're only buying 99.999 and up to 5 from your vendor, which means you're overpaying for something that you don't need. Now is the time to go back to your purity rate that you really require. Generate it yourself. Another slide. How do you identify your opportunity? You've walked around your plant, you've seen all this. You'll see green stickers, or maybe you've walked in your plant, you looked up overhead, and you see green piping. That means you have nitrogen within your facility. Large white vertical tanks. You see trucks coming in and out, right? Questions you want to start asking yourself, and maybe you've started doing this already in this webinar, and what's prompted you to be here is, well, if you're getting it delivered, when does my contract expire? We can help you with cancellation letters. Do I really need that high of a purity rate? What am I paying per bottle? And maybe your local Gardner Denver distributor is going to ask you that, to look for some monthly costs or bottle costs so they can help you work on that return on investment. And then really you have to finally ask yourself, are you really ready to eliminate and mitigate the risk? Because that's what we're talking about. You're here because you don't want to rely on others. You want to be self-reliant. And that's where we can help you moving forward.
Hey, Pat, I'm going to break in. We have a question, and I'm going to give it to Torsten. So
okay.
Want to unmute yourself, Torsten? We've got a question. This is a good one. Would dairies producing milk use nitrogen, therefore being a potential customer? So like a dairy farm, would that be a good customer?
Yes, like one of our customers is Fairlife. They use it for their milk products. I believe the purity they use is 99.5%. The food grade nitrogen is nitrogen with maximum 1% oxygen. We typically stay within 0.5% of oxygen or even 0.1% oxygen. That's most commonly used. So yeah, that's a good application.
Okay, thank you, Torsten.
Thank you, Heather. Torsten, great question. So let's talk a little bit about energy, right? And if Torsten, I may need you to chime in if needed, but when looking at the comparison to generate 100 SCFM of nitrogen, liquid nitrogen versus generating yourself with our XGN2, you can see it's a constant flat line. 2 kW per 100 is needed. But when generating on our own, you will see half that. Now, we go up a little bit, obviously, towards the end of this curve when you get to 99 and 99.5. But the most common range of nitrogen purities, and maybe Torsten, unmic yourself here, is would you say one of the most common ranges is really 95 to 99 tops, what you see?
We see probably a lot of 99 to 99.9.
Okay.
But also then for like laser cutting, it's 99.99, and also beer and a beer. When I mix it with CO2 and all, they were looking at 99.99%, and also electronics, it could be up as high as 99.999. So it varies, but a lot of it is more in the 99.9% range.
Okay, so even at those higher ranges, you can see that our cost to produce is greatly reduced as opposed to you producing it with a delivery, right? The electrical cost needed for that delivery process. You're going to save yourself some money going forward. Now, probably went through this a little bit quicker than I expected. Just wanted to give you a flavor and an overview for how our XGN2 systems can help you generate nitrogen and generate cost savings for your group. What you'll see in front of you is a nice QR code taking you to learn more about our XGN2 systems, be it a membrane or a PSA. And that's where you can also investigate more of your local distribution house, who can help you with the sizing and the selection, bring their expertise and some of the expertise of those who are in this panel, help you get out of a long-term contract. And the goal is to make you more self-sufficient. And the way I really see this is, what is your risk tolerance, right? Do you want to be without a delivery? Like compressed air. If you cannot generate nitrogen for an application or a process, that part of your plan is shut down. When that part of your plan is shut down, you're not generating any revenue while you're waiting on someone else to deliver your product. So take control of your own nitrogen supply, and obviously do it with Gardner Denver's equipment. We are the best in the business, and we're going to save you money while doing it. I thank you for your time. We're going to open it up for questions. There have been some coming through, but we're going to open up to the panel if we have any other live questions. And again, thanks for your time.
Great job, Pat. I do have a good question that just came through. Torsten, maybe you want to unmute. I'll give you this one as well. The participant asked, is it recommended to use food grade oil for nitrogen systems and compressors? So is it required to use food grade oil, or recommended when you have nitrogen generation in the system?
So that's a great question. For food and beverage applications, we use food grade oil for sure. For all the projects we have been involved in, we always use food grade oil.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Hey, Heather, can I chime in a bit?
Sure.
There. So obviously on the compression side, one thing about food grade, right? It's food grade oils in the industry. They have a little bit of an extended life, but not as much as a lot of people think. So as Torsten stated, if you're going to utilize food grade, make sure you're replacing it on a frequency as recommended by the manufacturer. Or going to food grade is nothing more than a Band-Aid to assist, right? So like most in the industry, most are still oil flooded and oil injected. So if you're making that leap to food grade, make sure you're doing your preventative maintenance on a more frequent basis and not just using it as, hey, I have food grade, I'm good to go. Just to add that from the compression maintenance side, because I've seen that a lot in the industry as well as Thorsten, hey, I have food grade and I'm good to go. But that doesn't always do it unless you're changing it on a recommended basis. So don't forget the maintenance part.
Yeah, that's a good tip. I've got a really good question. I'm going to throw it at Torsten again. This is a good one. And I know when I've done the trainings in the past, we've talked about this quite a bit. So the question is, I am under a liquid contract. How do we approach the gas company to prevent that they renew our contract or not renew?
Well, you can send us the contract. We can review it and help you recommend how to deal with it. But also, we have a standard cancellation letter we can send you that send to the gas company. It doesn't cancel your contract, but it stops it from order renewal, which can happen If you're within 1 year of the contract, suddenly it renews and you have another 5 years to go. So just if you send out a letter, then once the contract is over, you're free to move on and buy a nitrogen generator.
Okay, good one. Here's another one, Torsten. If a customer is using liquid N2, how should they find their flow rate? How can they calculate their flow rate if they're using liquid N2 and do not know?
So we often ask to get a copy of the bills to see the deliveries of nitrogen, and feel free to just wipe out the prices. We don't need to know what the cost is. Just let us know how much you're buying every week or month, and then how many hours you've been using the nitrogen, and we can at least get a rough idea about what the consumption has been. And then also we need to know, do you have big peak consumptions? And there could also be that you have in the instruction manual, it shows you what the consumption is for each of the machines. So look at the instruction manual and we can help you determine from that too. So there's different ways. And ultimately too, we can provide you with a flow meter and a data logger. So we can see what your consumption is like. And so we can make 100% sure we get to the right system.
Okay, good. Yeah, we could definitely always help you. And I think that's been a lot of the, I would say, the newer players in generating your own nitrogen. That's a question that they don't typically know either. So don't feel overwhelmed if you do not know all the answers to that, right? So that's why you have the experts here today. You have your Gardner Denver distributor. They will help you figure all that stuff out. So don't be intimidated if you're trying to get out of that contract. We've got tools to help you get out of the contract with letters. We've got the experts that can help you figure out and determine the needs that you have. So definitely don't feel overwhelmed. We've had that kind of come up. I'll give you another one, Torsten. This is a good one. I don't think I've heard this one before. CO2 is used for food and bev for packaging. So what is the benefit to use nitrogen over CO2? Is there one?
Yeah, so nitrogen is more environmentally friendly for sure. And it's also less expensive. But if you, let's say if you package meat, you need to mix in CO2. You can't just use nitrogen because the meat will turn brown rather than staying red. And we can help you with gas mixers too. We make some very large industrial gas mixers. So so that's something we can help with.
Okay, good. Let's see. There is another one. What are the main benefits for making my own nitrogen? I know we went through that. Maybe just a quick summary of what are the main benefits for producing your own nitrogen?
Yeah, I'll be happy to answer that. And also back to the previous question, CO2 deliveries have been very difficult too. There have been a shortage of CO2. So having your own nitrogen supply can help on that situation. But about the benefits of making your own nitrogen, as Pat mentioned, you'll reduce your expenses significantly. It has pretty short return on investment, typically less than 2 years, and also sometimes less than 6 months. So that's one reason why we should generate your own nitrogen. And the cost when you make your own is typically between 10 cents and 20 cents per 100 standard cubic feet of nitrogen, compared to it could be 80, 90 cents if you buy liquid nitrogen. And again, as Pat mentioned, you have an uninterrupted supply of nitrogen. You don't rely on delivery trucks. So you will not run out of nitrogen, so you can keep your production going. And also, you don't have any pollution from trucks delivering nitrogen. And also, the energy consumption to make your own nitrogen is less than making liquid nitrogen. So it's a lot more environmentally friendly.
Great recap, Thorsten.
Yeah, I think one of the things to touch on too, that, our business climate right now. So our business climate isn't ideal still in deliveries and things like of that nature. I think that what we did find out through a lot of different customers through our GD folks is that there's some loopholes in these contracts too that you all need to be aware of when we're talking about producing your own. These contracts can be very lengthy, 3 to 5, sometimes 10 years. So when they're not delivering and they're not meeting your demand, there's some things that we can help you. And that's, again, to Torsten's point, to sending over the contract and having our experts, as well as our legal teams, review that to help you understand if it's something that you can get out of today. If you can't get out of today, maybe you can get out of it tomorrow or a year from now, and we can be ready and we can be your solution. I've got a good one. I don't think I've...
Just to add on there, there's typically a force majeure clause in all the liquid contracts. So the gas companies don't have to give you liquid nitrogen, and even if they can't get it to you, you cannot put in your own nitrogen generator. You cannot generate your own nitrogen. So, but one of our customers in Florida, they were packaging orange juice and they didn't get deliveries, and we ended up selling them two nitrogen generators so they could keep the production going, because without getting deliveries of nitrogen, they had no product to package. So that was very unfortunate for them, but luckily we were able to help them.
Yeah, that's a great note, to basically supplement what they were not able to get from their current supplier. And then what's great is you're already learning how to generate it yourself. So eventually when that contract renews, you can have different options at that time, right? So great, that's a great feedback, Torsten. This is a good one. How does the volume of the buffer tank affect the purity of the resulting gas?
So the volume of the buffer tank, we size it in such a way that whenever your system goes out of standby, the pressure in your tank will stop or will drop, because you're not producing nitrogen initially. The system will go through a cleaning cycle. You want to have enough nitrogen stored so you can maintain the pressure. So the volume of the tank has more to do with getting enough nitrogen pressure compared to the purity. It doesn't really impact the purity much.
Hey, if I can add on to that too, one other note that I think everyone should know about, the selection tools that we showed you were built on the algorithms and safety margins through Torsten's group. So when you look at the selection tool, there is the nitrogen tank, the air tank, your dryers, your filters have an adequate safety margin built in to assist, just like the nitrogen buffer tank and on the air compression side, so that they're not sized right on. So there's margin and thought process built into that selection program so that the right upstream equipment works as well as the downstream buffer tank correctly.
I would also like to add, let's say you use 125 pounds air pressure and you need nitrogen 100 pounds. That's kind of the basis of how we size the tank. So if you only need 50 pounds, you can allow the pressure to drop below 100 pounds, then you can use a smaller receiver than what we're telling you that you need. Or also, if you run 24/7, you just start it once in a while, you can accept a little lower pressure. Then you can use a smaller tank. So there are different scenarios we can consider there. And also our nitrogen generators, they work like variable speed nitrogen generators, variable capacity, as Pat mentioned. So if you have very varying flow and you don't need to shut down the unit, you can run continuously, and at about 50% flow, you use about 50% of the air.
So I've gotten a few questions in the chat about different applications. 3 or 4 have come through about, I have this, my customer needs this, or they're changing. So ideally, great questions. And we need to know a little bit more to be able to tell you exactly what you would need for your application. But that is what, to Pat's point, is really helpful about our GD distribution. So they can go into the tools, they can sit with you and go over the application sheet So take your phone and scan this real quick, and that will help you get to the people that you need to get to help you with some of these answers. Because really, it's not very complicated. With the right information in front of that GD distributor, and they could reach out to our team here for assistance as well, you can have something sized rather quickly and understand what your needs are. So go ahead, take your phone out, scan this QR code, and it'll take you right where you need for all of that information. All right, let's see. I think that was our last question. Anyone else on the Zoom have any more questions you want to put into the chat, into the Q&A box? We'll give it one more minute, and while we see if there's any further questions, I'll give you guys one last one, either Pat or Torsten. Why does our GD PSA systems use less air than other PSA systems?
Yeah, I'll be happy to cover it. And actually, Pat mentioned it too during his presentation, that we do a lot of research and development, and we have tested different brands and grades for carbon molecules here. We tested Chinese, we tested Japanese, but the Chinese salespeople that have been coming to our office, they say you can only get 3 to 4 years life out of Chinese carbon. So we have not taken the chance of using that. So we've always used high quality Japanese carbon that can last for 10 plus years, or possibly even 20 years. And so we're starting off with the best possible material. And then we have an advanced process simulation tool that helps us determine what line sizes we're going to be using, valve sizes, adsorber heights and diameters, and also by getting it right in the first place, can then further optimize the performance. And also with the PLC controller, we can use optimum cycle times, equalization times, and also by getting all of these different factors right, that's how we can have the best-in-class air consumption.
All right, great. Thank you for that. Well, it looks like we are no more questions, and we're almost to the end of this. So I want to thank Pat, I want to thank Torsten for hosting this for us and for Gardner Denver. Again, if you guys have any questions, if you have applications, it sounds like we have a few that people are interested. Please reach out to your GD distributor. If you don't know who that is, feel free to reach out to the team here, Pat Kramer, Heather Mitchell. We can get you in the right direction. And everyone, have a great day.
Thank you very much.
Good evening. Great day. Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.